Welcome to the Prestin Sexton podcast, coming at you here on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022.
At 10:30 a.m.
10:30 a.m. Had to reschedule my haircut for this. God damn it. I'm still pissed off. But we have a special episode today because we didn't have anything that fit like today's theme. So we're like, what can we talk about?
Yeah, it's like we didn't really have a theme around anything today. So now we actually have to think about a podcast episode.
Yeah, this whole thinking thing, kind of overrated. If you ask me.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you want to tell them what we have on today's palette?
Well, I feel like I might explain it wrong, but...
Okay, I can explain.
Because I'm an idiot and you're not.
So today's episode's a big one. We're starting a new series. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I'm like human soundboard.
And we are starting our Ranking the MCU series. So for those of you who don't know what the MCU is, well, everyone knows, so I'm not even going to explain it. But basically, we are going to break down the 5 phases into separate episodes, and then just give our, out of 10-star ranking, kind of go into why we like them, why we don't like them. And then at the very end, after we're done breaking down the 5 phases throughout probably a couple months, we'll drop our final rankings to where we just rank every movie in the MCU.
We are going to be like draft pundits on NFL Draft Day. We're going to be sitting here looking at the films.
I have a good idea for Draft Day, Gabriel.
What's that?
We do... I'm thinking like the first 15 picks in the NFL draft, but they're movie characters. And who we'd want for our, it's basically a fantasy draft for movie characters. Who we'd draft
pick
on our
Willie
football team.
Beeman. Willie Beeman. Willie Beeman. Yeah. LL Cool J.
A couple other things we have on the palette today is we're gonna dive right into the Batman and what we're looking forward to in seeing the movie, because we're seeing it tonight.
I'm
9
excited.
p.m. Marcus Theater, Duluth.
We are getting out of the theater till 1 in the morning. With the way previews are. That movie's 3 hours.
The movie's 3 hours?
2 hours, 56 minutes.
Damn. And and it's usually it's okay, you could take off 10 minutes for the credits. No, you gotta stay for the credits now.
No, yeah, exactly. I'm well, you're gonna drop something.
Yeah.
Don't know what.
They're probably gonna hint at the Joker or something.
Something along those lines. But yeah, we're not getting out of there till tomorrow. We're gonna go in today and leave tomorrow.
So alrighty, Gabriel, you want me to start or you want to start for phase 1?
Phase 1.
We're gonna start with the very first Marvel movie and then just work our way up.
It depends what you consider first.
No, we're not gonna rank them one.
No, I'm saying between the Incredible Hulk and Iron Man.
Well, Iron Man came first.
We're
gonna yeah.
I swear the Incredible Hulk did.
Nope.
I was supposed to say,
and we're going in release order.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So Iron Man, first Iron Man, I'll give my opinion on it. For a movie to start something this big, I think it has to be great. It has to be a lot of different things. You think about MCU movies, and this one isn't that much of a spectacle. And maybe that's just the...
Very grounded.
Yeah, it's about post 9/11 militarism, and somehow they made it work with Iron Man, so kudos to Jon Favreau, but Robert Downey Jr. revived his career with this role, and he plays it perfectly. There are very few characters in life where you're that's... it's so hard to distinguish him from that movie. Because he just is Tony Stark. There's no other way around it. It's the same way Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan to me. Even in real life, I'm well, that's Obi-Wan. And I'm not one of those people that's the people that bully people for playing a character they don't like. I'm not that stupid. I'm just to me, these people are just that they just fit like a glove, you know?
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. And for me, like, I just love this movie, in all honesty. Like, it's just such a good story.
And it's so weird. Not even weird, but it's a quirky movie.
And it has, like, for me, like, one of the best opening scenes in a movie. Especially the MCU. Like, the first scene is just, like the first, in 5 minutes, you kind of just learn who Tony Stark is as a person. It's like...
He literally has a bullet with his name on it, essentially. Like, I'm not even joking.
Blown up by said bomb.
Right, and like he's got literal, like, marked for death. Great opening.
Yeah, and just like... I mean, it's kind of hard. We're breaking down a movie from 2009.
2008.
Or 2008. But it's like, yeah, it's...
The effects are actually, they hold up pretty well.
Yeah, it's like, you'd think by looking at it, like Robert Downey Jr. is actually flying around in a suit of armor.
It looks, for the time I remember as a kid, I'm like, this looks pretty real. And, I mean, kudos to my parents. My brother and I probably watched this movie well over 20 times. Even when we were kids, we loved it.
And I think this is the first ever Marvel movie I watched.
Well, it is the first ever Marvel.
I know, but
I guess Marvel
no, but
MCU.
Like, I didn't like start watching like the MCU till I was like 17, 18.
See that? I think that's such a unique story.
But it's like, I remember watching the first Iron Man, like right around the time it came out. Not in theaters, but like...
Just having it and watching it?
Yeah, like renting it from the gas station.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, like you said, Robert Downey Jr. is great in there. Even, like...
Jeff Bridges as a villain.
Bridges is like...
the Ironmonger.
Like, I think one of the more underrated performances in the MCU. Like, that guy's genuinely, like, kind of creepy in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, whenever he's, like...
strings.
Like, whenever he's, like, talking to Pepper and they have, like, you know, Tony's, like, dying on the floor and he's, like... Or, no. I'm thinking of a different scene. It's, like, when he's in Pepper's office and he's, like, talking to her, like, hinting. Oh, yeah. Like, that scene is just kind of creepy in my eyes.
Very tension inducing. One of the things that I really like is how many times has Jeff Bridges ever been a villain in a movie? I cannot think of too many.
The only one I know of really is Iron Man.
Yeah, that's the only one I'm like, he's the bad guy in that movie. He's the villain. He's the antagonist. So I think for him to just kind of step maybe out of his comfort zone, say what you will, I'm like, I think he's an above average villain. He's not great, but he didn't have to be. He was good. There wasn't too much of a focus on him. It was Robert Downey Jr.'s movie. It wasn't even close. Kicks ass. He kicks ass in that movie.
Yeah.
There's not much.
It's like, and like the action scenes in it, I love the action scenes in this movie.
They make sense.
Like the first time he goes back, like not like when he's exiting the cave, but when he goes back to the Middle East and kicks the crap out of those terrorists in that city. Yeah. Like, I love that scene because it just feels like raw. Like, it seems like a
like
real
he's pissed off and he's like, pick on someone your own size. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Plus, I mean, the cave scene. I love
iconic.
I love the cave scenes with him and Ianson, like him building the suit in the cave. Loved, like, probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, but him like actually breaking out of the cave was just
the Mark 1. One of the things I enjoy, an underrated aspect of that movie, is that they don't show Pepper or Rhodey trying to find him. Like it's like the whole emphasis of this movie is on Iron Man, and they show him the entire time he's in the cave. So I think that just really adds to the story and like to the overall dread I feel like he felt.
And for me, they also like have like a perfect amount of humor in this movie.
It's not too quirky. Like Age of Ultron gets a little too
a little too forced, and like this, it just
makes sense.
It makes 100. Yeah,
because it's like, oh, it's within his character because he's kind of a rich asshole, but
No, he is a rich asshole.
He's the
He's not
rich
kind
asshole.
of a rich asshole.
That's fair. Fair enough. So what do you think? Final verdict out of 10 stars.
I give it an 8.5.
I was gonna say 8, so I think we're average that out 8.25.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because it's good. I'm like, okay, there's certain things that could be better, but at the time, this was
like if you asked me
everything else.
if you asked me in 2012, it would have been a 10 out of 10.
Yep.
But now that like the MCU has evolved into like putting out the movies they have,
They're like, hey, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield
like,
and Tom Holland will be in the same Spider movie.
It's like they kind of like set a priority, or not a priority. What's it called?
A precedence?
A precedence, yeah. And set a new standard for superhero movies.
Yeah, they did reset the whole like idea of what it means to be like it feels like such small potatoes going back and watching this movie, but at the time I'm like, this movie's so cool.
It's like this isn't a time when superhero movies weren't really a thing.
They were on the low. Like Fantastic Four
Fantastic Four sucked.
X-Men was kind of
X-Men was good. It was a hit.
It's good. It's not
I was about
bad.
to say, but it was like X-Men and Spider-Man.
Right. It definitely wasn't Marvel's time to be alive, because Batman was killing it.
And the thing with this movie was just how big of risk this movie was for Marvel. Like for
just getting Robert Downey Jr. alone.
Because for one, like casting Robert Downey Jr., it doesn't seem like it now, but like this was he was
a risk.
Big risk.
It was a swing.
Like I know he was having alcohol and drug issues a couple of years before this. He was kind of known as like that, like one of those snobby rich Hollywood kids who kind of no F's given.
It's a Brat Pack.
Yeah.
Brat Pack, yep.
Yeah, it's like looking at it now, you're like, oh, Robert Downey Jr., one of the biggest actors in Hollywood now. Like,
revived his career.
Yeah, but like this movie revived his career. Also, Jon Favreau, another big risk for Marvel at this time.
Yeah, he hadn't really directed anything like too of note at the time.
It's like he directed, I think, Elf, I know for sure.
Did Elf, I want to say he did Here Comes the Boom before.
Here Comes the Boom. Like the Kevin James movie?
Yeah, I swear he did.
Wait, he directed that?
I swear he did, yeah.
I gotta look now. Jon Favreau.
I could be wrong. I swear he did, though.
So 2008, correct?
Yep.
I want to see his directing.
Yeah, I hate when they do
show
the
the
actor
actor.
first.
It's like well, no. He's a director, so stop. Okay. So, before this, he did Zathura in Elf. Like, those were really his only...
That is a swing. I'm like, they took a swing.
Oh, for sure.
They hit. I'm like, they hit a home run on him.
They didn't just hit a home run. They hit a walk-off home run in Game 7 of the World Series. And then, like, another thing people don't realize, like, Iron Man was, like, a C or B list. Like,
he was not, like, when you say Iron Man, people know who Iron Man is.
Yeah, like,
he
now
was
he's,
big
like...
in Marvel, but he wasn't really, like pop culture icon now.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, he has his, like, big storylines in the movie, but, like, he's nowhere near, like, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, X-Men...
Not at the time.
Yeah, so like Disney took, or not Disney. Disney didn't own them at this time.
No,
frick, I forgot.
It's just Marvel Entertainment.
Yeah, like just Marvel Entertainment took a huge risk for this movie.
It worked. You know what? Sometimes if you want to make a little money, you got to take a little bit of risk. So final verdict, 8.25.
Yeah,
8.25. What is the next film?
The Incredible Hulk, I think. I don't know. It's not on Disney+.
I haven't seen it in a while.
And I'm just going to be honest. This movie sucks.
It's very forgettable. And to be honest, like, yeah, it's in there because obviously the Abomination was in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I mean, they do hint at it.
Shang-Chi.
Throughout like the MCU, they have hinted at it.
Thunderbolt Ross is still
still a huge character in the MCU. But yeah, it's like, for me, this movie,
forgettable. Just not much to talk about.
Kind of stinky.
Oh, like the action scenes are kind of cool.
I was about to say, like,
Ed Norton sucks.
The redeeming quality it has is the fight scenes.
Fight scenes are actually pretty cool.
But everything else in this movie sucks.
Yeah, there's just not much to really talk about. Like you could talk a lot about how Iron Man really changed the way he just kind of or not even he, but that movie. See, there you go. Like the whole movie just introduces a whole genre, and I feel like the Incredible Hulk is just not. It's just not on par.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make a good Hulk movie. I think
it's very hard because you can't. It's a lot of CGI driven action, which I guess it's kind of hard to make a character study out of the Hulk.
Yeah,
because the Hulk is like.
It's like
what,
you could
what
do
does
it
he
for
like to do?
Bruce Banner, but it's not the Bruce Banner movie. It's
right.
The Hulk.
Like with Tony Stark, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different angles you can go, and the Hulk is like, I like to hit things. That's it. And I'm like, oh.
I mean, like I said, though, you could hop into, like, Bruce Banner, like, having to deal with, like, being the Hulk and not knowing, like, what's going to happen as soon as the Hulk takes over. But you don't need a whole movie to do that. So it's like...
No. And that's kind of emphasized in, like, Ragnarok, in other movies. I don't know. I just don't care personally for The Incredible Hulk. Just not much to really talk about.
I've only seen it twice.
I've seen it once.
And I don't plan on seeing it really ever again.
I weirdly remember watching it in 2008 on Thanksgiving. I just didn't care for it that much. Final verdict, 4.5.
I give it a 5.5.
It's okay. It's just not.
For me, it's not like a 4.5 because that's like an abysmal movie. I say like a 5.5.
Well, apparently it was abysmal because Norton never came back. He never ever came back to that role.
Yeah, but for me, it's still like the action scenes are good enough to not make it a 4.5 for me.
I guess. I feel like 4.5 movies have like a redeeming quality.
Yeah, I could see that. So
maybe just 5.
Just meet in the middle 5. At 5.
I'll meet you. Negotiation. The negotiator. Outstanding General Grievous impression.
So we're going with a 5, right? No.
5. So we got 8.
Should probably write these down.
Yeah, write it down, would you?
Yeah.
Good God, write it down.
We said a 9 for Iron Man.
No, we said 8.25.
Oh, 8.25.
Write that down. 5.0. It's the next one, Iron Man 2.
We got Iron Man 2.
I'll be honest.
Don't like it.
I just don't care for this one.
That's the thing. I don't either. It's like, for me, it's not like a bad movie by any means, but it's not a good movie.
Like, what does Tony Stark learn from the start to the end? He's like, well, my dad kind of likes me. He's like, my dad left me this technology. That's cool. That's it. Like there's like no lesson. It doesn't feel like
it's
there's
like it has its like scenes like I don't know why I love the scene where he's just drunk at the party and he's like gonna give her the Gallagher and just blows up a watermelon.
Yeah.
Like I like that scene. Like I think it's just hilarious. But like there's not much in this movie.
No, there's just I don't really care for it. It's just okay. It's just okay.
For me it's like the villain's very forgettable.
Yeah, Ivanka or something like that. He's Whiplash.
Ivan Vanko.
Yep, that's what I thought with the other guy. I can't even remember his name. The industry.
Oh,
Hammer Industries.
Okay, that's like
Hammer.
That's like my favorite thing about this movie is Justin Hammer.
He actually wasn't bad. He wasn't bad in that movie.
Honestly, I kind of want to see him back in the MCU. Like, I think he will.
I think he will too. I don't think he was even that bad in the role. I just don't like the direction they went. Where you're like, oh, they're gonna work together, and I don't know. It's just kind of stupid.
Like for me, that's my favorite part in this movie is Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. Like,
yeah, he works.
Like I said, I want more of him.
He's good. I like him.
Plus, a couple other just things I really like about this movie is Black Widow was introduced. They made her
the Avengers Initiative.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not a great movie by any means, but it's far from like a bad movie. Like the scenes where Black Widow kicking the crap out of the guys in the hallway.
It's cool. That's really cool.
Iconic. You got like Happy in there, who's hilarious. Like, you know,
so it's kind of a comedic.
While Black Widow is just kicking the crap out of all these
bites
bad guys.
Dude's ears.
Like he's in just a full out boxing match with this one dude.
It's hilarious. It is funny. This movie does have its qualities. It's definitely not Incredible Hulk where I'm like, blah. This movie to me is just kind of whatever. It's whatever. I don't know.
Another thing I find really funny about this movie is when they're like at the racing scene. They kind of come in, like they come in on with I think it's the Rolls Royce, and it hit him, and they keep backing up and hitting him, and then like Whiplash is like whipping those things at the car, and like Pepper's in the back seat freaking out while Happy's just flooring it in reverse and just smacking the guy. It's
hilarious. Elon Musk is in that scene.
Yeah, Elon Musk is in the MCU.
Musk is in there. He's canon. He's canon. I do enjoy the storyline of like, okay, he thinks he's gonna die, so he kind of just starts doing whatever he wants. But I don't like the fact that whatever he wants is kind of shitty. Like, it's just kind of shitty to me.
What would you say your favorite scene in this movie is?
I do think it probably is the racing scene is up there.
I suppose to say, 'cause mine was when he's at the Senate hearing.
The Senate hearing's pretty cool, and they introduce Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Don Cheadle, who I don't care what anyone says is a better roadie than.
I like Terrence Howard better.
I'm not much of a Terrence Howard guy.
I just like him a little better. He just fits it a little more to me. But it doesn't matter now.
But it's like for me, it's like when he's like sitting there at the Congress hearing, and they're like showing like, oh yeah, people are gonna make advancements on the Iron Man armor, and he comes up, hacks into the TV, and then just shows all like these people just failing to do it.
The Hammer Industries,
including Justin Hammer, who's like standing there next to the Iron Man armor. He's like, okay, I want you to turn your body, and breaks the guy's like he stands to breaks the guy's back, and Justin Hammer's just like, oh shit.
And he's like monkeying with the TV and finally just unplugs it.
And then it gets to the point to where the senator is just like, you know, fuck you, Mr. Stark. F you, buddy.
He's like, F you, buddy. Yeah, I remember that part because I remember he's like, Hammer Industries 20 years away. So I remember that part. Final verdict, what do you think?
I give it a solid 7.5.
That's a little high for me. I was thinking more like 6.5. Get it down.
Meet at 7?
6.75.
A 6.75?
Yeah. Because there's.
I agree with my thing. I think it's a little high.
Yeah,
I don't know why I said 7.5. I should have just said 7.
I would. We'll get to it.
6.75.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm actually not going to say a 7.5. I'm saying a 7. I don't know why I put a half at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie's a strong 6.5 now in my mind after thinking about it a little more. Strong 6.5.
You say 6.5, I say 7.
Okay,
6.75, I can agree.
It's a good watch. I wouldn't say it's a great movie.
For me, there's too many things I enjoy about it.
You got rose-colored glasses on. That's your problem.
Yeah. Alrighty, what is next?
I believe it's Thor. Oof. Yeah, this movie's boring. That's all I can say. This movie's kind of boring. It's kind of. They tried to set it up. There are some redeeming qualities. Like they did take like a lot of, at the time, Chris Hemsworth wasn't a big name actor at all.
Chris Hemsworth and
Tom
Hiddleston were no names. Like one of my favorite like pictures that I've gone around is this like Marvel takes big risk and casts 2 no-name actors in Thor movie. Will it work?
I'm like, yeah, it will.
Yeah, it worked.
You know what's funny is before Chris Hemsworth was Thor, in my mind, the most significant role he had was Captain Kirk's dad in like the J.J. Abrams revamp Star Trek. He was in there for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
I did not know that.
Go back and rewatch it. Star Trek, the new one, the new trilogy.
Did that come out before Thor?
Yeah, it came out in like same time. I want to say 2009, 2008.
Yeah, no, Chris Hemsworth, one of the more famous people in Hollywood.
I thought you were gonna say attractive people. I'm like,
well, that too.
Yeah. I'm like, the man is literally like, I'm not a gay man, but if Chris Hemsworth was like, "Do you want to go out?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I would."
Jesus.
We wouldn't even hesitate. There'd be no hesitation.
Yeah, like one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Like that's what the MCU does now. They're just like, if we cast a no-name person, they're gonna be like incredibly famous by the end of the year.
Well,
like Simu Liu, or Simu Lee.
You did so good with Japanese before. Like, name a random Twins player, Preston.
Yoshi Nishioka.
You did so good, and then you got to Simu Lee, and you just couldn't do it.
But it's like, this movie just mid.
Yeah, like the Destroyer is not a great. Whatever. Loki's a great villain, great character.
But for me, like, he's like the best thing in the movie.
I hate how they like always concretely kind of kill him, and then he's like, "I'm back." You're like, "What?"
It's like, oh, okay, Thanos broke his neck. Now he's definitely dead. Okay, well, you know that time traveling thing we did? Well, we just saved Loki. It's like, oh my god.
And then, yeah, like in Thor: The Dark World, he literally gets stabbed and dies, and then he's back.
He's like, "I'm back, bitches."
I'm like, okay.
He's the Kenny. He's basically Kenny from South
He is Kenny. You're like, "Oh my god, they killed Loki. You bastards."
But yeah, like
Anthony Hopkins as Thor, or not as Thor, as Odin. Great casting in my mind.
Honestly, yeah, like Odin, like, don't really care about the character at all, but Anthony Hopkins, like, pretty good casting there.
I think that's a great casting, because in my, I'm like, who, especially with the long hair and a beard, 'cause, like, okay, when he has a clean shave, not so much Odin, but like, he just, in my mind, I can't shake the thought that he's physically Odin.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just works. It just works.
You know, I think this movie suffers from is just how grounded it is.
Yeah, where like, they try to make
you're having like a mythical, you're having basically a Norse god, and he's just gonna be chilling on Earth in a random New Mexico town.
Yeah, it's a very grounded movie because he needs to become worthy to pick up Mjolnir again, and I don't know, it's just kind of.
I was about to say, I guess for me, is I would do a little bit more like a mythical movie, like. He'd be on Earth, but he'd have to like, he'd have to like make it to where he gained. Or I wouldn't even say that. I would just say like he does something in like an earlier time to become worthy, and it's just him doing like fighting for Earth for something. Like him fighting like
giants or something. Yeah,
like him fighting like a big bad on Earth type thing.
Kenneth Branagh wasn't the greatest director, I feel like, for this movie. 'Cause his movies tend to be a little more.
Yeah.
I see what they try to do, because he's a classically trained like Shakespeare actor, and they try to make it a little too Shakespearean for Marvel movies. Too Shakespearean. It's a little too, and it just comes across as just boring. Like it's a boring movie to watch. You're like, well, I'm gonna watch Thor. And no one's can I join?
It's kind of like where you get to that. It's one of those movies that when you're rewatching the MCU, you're like, okay, what's next? And you're like, Thor. And you're like.
You're like, this is necessary.
You're like, oh, okay. Time to freaking go on my phone for 2 hours.
Like, yeah, I'm with you. Like, if someone was like, I'm going to watch Thor, you'd be like, well, I'm not going to openly mock you, but I'm not going to sit here and watch it.
I'm going to look at you and be like, out of all the movies you choose in the MCU, why the frick would you choose Thor?
You're like, that's
like, Thor Ragnarok, I can get
behind that.
But Thor...
I'd be
just don't say the Dark World or I'm going to slap you. Alrighty, so what's your final ranking?
Strong 6. Strong. Maybe 5.5. But I'm sticking with 6. That's a 6. A good movie, not...
I give it... I don't think it's quite a 60%. I'd say like a 6.3.
6.25. Try and stick in quarters. Final verdict, 6.25. I like that because it is a little better than Hulk, but not by
Yeah.
much.
And it's like I said, it's not bad. It's just boring.
I always find it so weird. Chris Hemsworth looks so different in that movie. Like they did something to him.
Bleached eyebrows.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Because something's clearly not right whenever I watch that movie.
Yeah, it's like they bleached his eyebrows, so he just looks weird.
Okay, because whenever I watch that movie and then I watch Ragnarok, and obviously, okay, he has a hair.
And he's older.
Right, but I'm like, he looks so much different. Like, this doesn't even look like the same person. That's just my thing. That's one of the distracting things. Natalie Portman is okay in this movie. She's just okay.
Yeah, it's like, I could go without their love story, to be honest. It's not that interesting at all.
No, I'm glad they kind of broke up. No, they broke up!
Who dumped who, though, is the real question.
Yeah, who dumped who? I dumped her. Yeah, I don't know. It's just blah.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the next Thor movie. I'm sure it'll be good because it's Taika Waititi. Definitely be interesting to see what they do, though.
Hopefully it's good. I
think it probably will be good.
I hope it's better than this one. I hope it's better than Thor.
It won't be that hard to do.
No. Next one.
We got Captain America, the First Avenger. I'm just going to say it right away. I think this movie's overrated.
You think it's overrated?
Slightly overrated.
It's a little campy. And when I say it's a little campy, it's campy. Yeah.
Like, for me, it's kind of a slow movie.
I think it was a good, not great movie. Where, at the time, like, this didn't advance anything in my mind for the Marvel entertainment, but it didn't put it behind.
No, it was just like, it's just a okay addition to it. It's just an okay addition to the MCU. I mean, it's a pretty good origin story.
It makes sense.
But then it's like, it's a Captain America origin story.
It makes sense because, like, a lot of Captain America's motivations they make sense in this movie. Yeah. Like, okay, he wants to go back in time because he didn't get his chance.
And his whole, like, who he is as a person is established. Like, that's the one part I like, like when he's in the back alley just getting crap kicked out of him by that big dude. It's like,
I could do this all day.
Yeah, it's like,
I know.
Set that, they kind of just, that's something they always call back to throughout, like a 10-year period.
I was like that. Yeah, and he's like, I don't like bullies. And then they set it up of great man knows fight his heart.
And like I said, like, this movie's just okay.
It's okay.
Like, it's not, like, I think it's a good movie, but it's not, like, great.
It has in my opinion, one of the 6 signs of movie apocalypse.
What?
Neil McDonough's in this movie. Like, if you see Neil McDonough in something, you're like...
Is that the guy who plays Red Skull?
No, he's Dum Dum Dugan.
Oh.
Whenever I see him, I'm like, the show's going down. I'm like, he's not even that bad. Whenever in my mind, I'm like, well, this is not a quality thing if I see Neil McDonough. I'm like, the hardest working man in Hollywood. That man is in everything.
I will say, though, the castings, pretty good castings.
Yeah, Chris Evans is perfect, even though he was coming off of the Human Torch and the Fantastic Four.
But no one saw that movie, so it's okay.
They're like, if it is not in the archives, then it does not exist.
Disney has just been like, is that on Disney Plus now?
What?
The Chris Evans Fantastic Four?
I feel like they are, yeah. I think they are.
Alrighty. Legacy movies.
Yeah, Fantastic Four, baby.
Yeah. Kind of surprised Disney put that on there. I figured they would just be hiding this.
They're not. The first one isn't bad. The second one's.
Imagine if in Multiverse of Madness, just Chris Evans walked out in a Fantastic Four uniform.
I'd be like, I'd clap mine the same. Like, ah!
I'd just be like, why? I would
senseless.
Like it'd be fine if it was like just like a little flash. But if they're like, oh yeah, Chris Evans gonna be our Human Torch in the MCU, I would be like, stop.
I'm like, no, it has to be Michael B. Jordan. I'm like, please.
No.
I'm like, please.
That movie. If I was Disney, I would be scrubbing that movie
What movie?
I'd George Lucas that thing. George Lucas with the holiday special.
Yeah.
Like, that movie wouldn't exist.
My dad was showing me, because he's on the road a lot. He's like, he goes, I watched it one time in the hotel. He's like, I watched it for 20 minutes, shut it off. He's like, the movie was terrible.
I've seen it twice.
The Fantastic Four in 2016. People.
I've seen it twice.
That is 2 more times than you should ever watch it.
I watched it the first time, and I'm like, okay, this movie sucks. Like, why is Doctor Doom just blowing people's heads off?
It's mindless.
That doesn't make any sense. And then I watched it the second time because me and my dad were just watching all the comic book movies during, like, quarantine, or when we were, like, locked in our houses, and it's like Fantastic Four. I'm like, I really don't want to watch this again. But we will.
Inevitably. Yeah, I don't know. Captain America, Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, good villain.
Yeah, like, he's memorable, I think.
He's a good villain. Chris Evans as Captain America is iconic. Like, he's probably never going to shake that role for the rest of his life. But
nah, definitely not.
Final verdict on this movie, 7.
7. Yeah, I agree. 7.
It's just an average movie.
It's like, it's better than Iron Man 2, but it's not close to Iron Man 1. Like, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between, but leaning more towards Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it. Like, it's definitely good.
Like, I'll see people put this in their top 10 MCU movies. It's like, stop. No.
I'm like, that's just creating controversy to get talked about.
You're dumb.
You're just being dramatic. You're being dramatic.
Just say you're a simp for Chris Evans. And get on with your life.
Who's more attractive, Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth in your mind? Hemsworth for sure. It's the accent. Like
Chris Evans is basically Chris Hemsworth, except with
just American.
Except long hair. Except Chris Hemsworth has long hair and an Australian accent.
I'm with you.
Alrighty, and then the final movie in MCU Phase 1, The Avengers.
Well, I'm just gonna come out and say it. This movie rocks.
Oh, 100%.
The only thing that hurts it is exactly what kind of hurt Iron Man that we talked about. That we've seen so much now that...
The thing that hurts it is that we've had another 12 extra years of the MCU after this.
Well, we had Avengers Endgame where you had everyone on a screen. And at the time, this movie was like, there's so many people in this movie.
Everyone's like, oh, the MCU has been pretty solid so far, but will they be able to put all these people on screen and make it a good movie? Well, guess what? It worked. It was a really good movie.
Like, the Hawkeye actually is... Jeremy Renner's pretty good in this movie. Actually, I like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
Honestly, everyone in this movie, perfect casting.
You're right.
Honestly,
there's no one that just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like Jeremy Renner.
Perfect.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner, Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans,
Robert Downey Jr., Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury.
Yeah, and then Mark Ruffalo.
What do you think is the best quote from this movie?
Ooh. If any of you ever had shawarma.
Fair enough. The one that sticks out in my mind is it's Nick Fury, and he's like, I recognize the council has made a decision.
But since it's a stupid-ass decision...
Given it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it. I say that a lot.
Nah, my favorite one is just Puny God.
Puny God? Yeah, that was...
In my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, that's right. You have Mark Ruffalo coming to play...
this is his first ever appearance.
His first, yeah.
They were just like... They didn't even explain. They were just like, oh yeah, here's Mark Ruffalo. He's the new Hulk.
Nothing said. They're like, nothing needs to be said.
See, he looks exactly like Edward Norton, guys.
They're like, he was in The Incredible Hulk. They're like, what do you mean Incredible Hulk? What are you talking about? What movie?
That movie doesn't exist.
They're like, the movie. They're like, what movie? They're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this movie is a pretty grand spectacle, and they do a lot of setting up each character. Like, Chris Evans is the leader. Like, he's just the leader of the team. Robert Downey Jr. makes a selfless
And to
act
be
at the
honest,
end.
I almost have to disagree with you on what you said at the beginning about it. Like
That this
that
movie
it's been
hurts a little bit.
hurt
You
by
think
by all the stuff that's came out since.
You think it's better?
Like when you look at it, like how the last few movies and TV shows have built upon the Battle in New York, I almost think it makes it better.
Do you think they do that on purpose so that way people don't lose sight of the original Avengers?
I could see that, but I also think just because of how, like, it's the most important movie, or second most important movie in the MCU history.
And when you would say Iron Man is number one?
Oh yeah, because it was the one that set everything up.
That makes sense, because if this didn't work, then
you get
doesn't
no more
work.
Avengers.
Like, this
movies.
is the actual like linchpin in the works.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Loki is the villain. Like, he has to work.
Yeah.
Which at the time, Tom Hiddleston really.
But like I said,
done
when you
much.
look at it, like they've built upon this movie a bunch. Like they introduced Thanos for the first time in this movie.
Doesn't speak a word.
Nah, he just sits there grimacingly. And then,
true.
like I said, they build upon it. Like Hawkeye, for example, like that's a movie where they build upon it. They built
Spider-Man, Homecoming.
Homecoming,
Homecoming, like, it's part of the plot.
even like or Endgame, where they
have to go back.
It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. For me, I think it's kind of like people like explained it to me, or not explained it to me. Like I watched like a new Rockstars video on it,
Mm-hmm.
and how it might actually be like, it's like a certain event that happens. Like it's like always gonna happen in every universe, because just
I know this term too, because
Yeah.
Caleb talks about it with
Yeah.
me all the time.
I
That
can't- I
everyone
just-
has a moment. That's his theory. He's
Yeah.
like, there are 3 or 4 moments in your life that cannot change.
Yeah, I think that's one of them.
Oh my god!
They explained
I
it
can't
in
think
What
of it.
If. They explained it in What If, and how what's her name, like, dies no matter what, in the movie, or in the episode with Doctor Strange.
Oh, I don't remember. I haven't seen Doctor Strange in a while. But
Yeah.
his MF wifey babe.
Yeah, like they explained it.
An
in What
absolute
If.
moment.
An absolute point.
Yep.
I think it's kind of like the absolute point in the MCU timeline, because of just how much it sets up afterwards.
That's fair. Because, yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I just think they've done a lot of revamping for that movie, because you could honestly, like, you go back and watch it and you're like, oh, these are just characters on screen. But like I said, at the time, it was like, oh my god, look at all these names in this movie.
You can't put 7 people in a movie and
They're main characters. There's 7 main characters. And it doesn't feel like anyone gets shunted in the movie at all about...
Nah, and like, I kind of just blanked. I just kind of forgot about him for some reason. But Agent Coulson, like,
Yeah,
actually
Clark
one of
Gregg.
my favorite castings and characters in the MCU.
He's just kind of like a random character they casted in. I think he kind of keeps him grounded, scaled.
Yeah, and like he's kind of like, yeah. I mean, I'm a big Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. guy.
I liked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. up until like the later seasons, and then I
Yeah.
quit watching. I'm like, this doesn't...
Even though I was always intrigued by it.
The first and second season are good, and then once I get to the Inhumans, I quit. I kind of quit watching after that.
So what's your final ranking?
8.5.
I have to agree with you on an 8.5 was my
8.5.
exact ranking.
Yeah, 'cause, like I said, this movie is better than Iron Man, but it's just not like you couldn't give it a 9 after like the movies that
Like,
come
you
after
have
it.
to be, and to be honest, you have to be an amazing movie to get a 9.
And I mean, the MCU certainly has a couple.
It's like on my IMDb, I have it as a 9, but that's because you can't do like half or quarter rankings.
You just round up.
Basically, I kind of have it set to like an 8.5 or higher is a 9 on there, and anything from an 8.49 and lower
Well, that's rounding.
Yeah,
I'm like that's how rounding works.
I round
Preston.
it, yes. I round it to the nearest 10.
Like in short.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's a pretty phase 1 recap. Starts and ends pretty good, and that's what you want. You know, recency and primacy effects certainly are something.
Now I'm just gonna do a quick recap of what our rankings were.
Yep.
So we had Iron Man as an 8.25. You still fine with that ranking?
I'm right on with that.
Hulk at a 5.
That makes sense.
Iron Man 2 at a 6.75.
It's a little high, but
I think so too.
I think so too.
You want to bump that down to a
6.5?
6.5?
Yeah, I think looking back at that now, like if Captain America's a 7, I think that movie's a strong.
So we're at a 6.25. Fine with that.
I'm fine. Could be lower, but I think that's fine.
First Avengers a 7. Fine with me.
Good, not great movie.
And then Avengers at an 8.5.
Great movie. So it has to be great, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yep. So you're okay with those rankings?
I'm okay.
Sweet. Let's hop into the next topic. So as a lot of you guys know, The Batman is already released in theaters. I think it comes
out tonight.
It comes out tonight.
Yeah, because.
Okay, so it's the early screenings for people.
We're gonna go to the early screenings.
We're seeing it at 9:00 tonight. So Gabe, what are you most excited for about it?
I think they're gonna show like an actually dark and gritty portrayal of the Batman instead of he's a little too superhero-esque, and I know that might not make sense, but like in Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, he's a little too superhero-esque and not like this dark and gritty night.
It's like those movies can be dark, but they're like
not consistently
not Batman dark.
Right, and from the way it's like Batman's a goth dude, and that's one thing like I noticed in the trailers. Like, okay, Robert Pattinson has eye black, so like I thought of The Crow.
Yeah.
Like, The Crow is a gritty movie. That's a dark, gritty movie.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm looking forward to in this movie is that we're finally getting Batman the Detective.
Yep.
Like, that's one thing that hasn't really been portrayed.
They always get Batman the billionaire, Batman the fighter, not Batman the detective.
But never Batman, like, the world's best detective.
I think it works better, and I mean, this is a podcast about movies and video games. The Batman video games nail it that he's like this detective and he can figure it out. I think that really nails it home, but in the movies and anything, not so much.
You get a little bit of detective work in The Dark Knight, but it's like...
I wouldn't say it's... He feels more of like an enforcer than a detective.
For sure.
Batfleck's a little... Batfleck isn't that version. I like to view each... I wouldn't say like each version is like the same Batman. Like, okay, like his version is... This is what he does, and they're alternate characters.
Yeah, like I said, I'm most looking forward to Batman the Detective. And I mean, oh my god, Paul Dano looks creepy.
Menacing. He looks menacing as the Riddler.
The Riddler in there, like I know people are complaining, he's not comic accurate looking. Well, his character wouldn't work in this. Wouldn't work.
Like, do you want Jim Carrey? Actually, Jim Carrey as the Riddler is a...
I'm not a fan.
I like him. It just makes sense in my mind.
But like, Paul Dano actually sounds and looks scary.
Well, this movie's gonna be scary.
Oh, I think so too. But not like cover your eyes scary.
No, like a tension.
Like a tension.
Psycho thriller.
Yeah. Like I'm kind of expecting like the kind of scary in like Silence of the Lambs is when she's in the basement.
Yeah.
And the guy has the night vision goggles on, and he's like kind of walking up to her, like a scary like that, to where it's like, oh my god, like
something's
like
about
your
to happen.
heart's beating, like you're like, oh my god.
look behind you, just screaming in the theater.
Yeah, and like we're getting, like the Riddler, like a serial killer. So I'm kind of getting like a mix of like the Silence of the Lambs with Zodiac with Batman.
That's a good way to put it.
Kind of like something like that.
I'm kind of interested in what direction Zoe Kravitz goes with the Catwoman. Because she's going to be a pretty big part. It looks like she's on every poster and she's on, like, in every promo.
Oh, she's going to be huge, I think. I think they set up... My guess is that they'll, like, do some sort of spin-off.
She was ranked in my top 5 women to write to when we inevitably go to war. You remember this? You remember that?
Yes.
I was on that train long before it left the station.
So, Gabe, are there any, like... It's like, this is probably obviously going to be a pretty big franchise. Like, I think Warner's going to make their own Batman universe. Because, you know, they kind of revamped the DC EU, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think this Batman's going to be in that one, in that universe. I think it's going to be like a spin-off, like the Batman universe. Like, where they have all his villains, like, all his spin-offs, like... like, over the next few years, like, are there certain characters you want to see in these movies?
In, like, the Batman spin-off?
Oh. Like, in, like, the Batman franchise, the new Batman franchise. Like, who do you want being set up? What, maybe, villains do you want to see that haven't really been on the big screen?
I don't really know, because they've always had... Like, pretty much every Batman villain I can think of has been portrayed in a way. Like Two-Face. Aaron Eckhart is Two-Face, underrated.
Oh, very.
He's great. And he has probably the most quotable line from the entire movie. You know which one I'm talking about? You either die a hero...
or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Very quotable moment. But I'm, like, trying to think. Like, Killer Croc? I don't know.
I was about to say,
Killer
I have
Croc.
a few. Like, I really want to see the Mad Hatter.
That could work, I guess.
Like, you know, a guy taking over people's minds and, like, making them do stuff that they wouldn't usually do. Like, I know they kind of dove into him in Gotham. I was a pretty big Gotham fan, so I kind of want to see if... there's a few villains from the Gotham series I want to see on the big screen. So I want to see the Mad Hatter, because, like, I think he would fit perfectly in this universe as kind of like a serial killer taking over people's minds and making them kill themselves or something like that. Hugo Strange. You know who that? Do you know who that is?
He's like the doctor, right?
He's the doctor from Arkham Asylum.
Yep.
Who, like, experiments on people, making them into
creepy.
Like...
It would fit, you know, actually, I feel like, with this version of the Batman. Great.
I want to see more of the Scarecrow. Because I think he has the kind of tone that would fit.
But Cillian Murphy's already good as the Scarecrow.
He's good. But I want to see more. Like, if they bring... I'd bring him back, honestly.
You would bring him back?
Like,
you'd bring him back?
He'd be Cillian Murphy, except he's not, like, the same guy from the Dark Knight, obviously. Like, he's just playing another variant of the Scarecrow. But one character I really want to see is Azrael.
Oh, yeah.
You know who that is?
Templar.
Like, Knight of the Templar Crusader. Yep. Like the title was passed down from family to, like, generation to generation as family. And I wouldn't really set him up as, like, a villain. I'd set him up as, like, an anti-hero. Like a guy Batman clashes with, but they both kind of want the same thing.
Oh, like a Venom kind of.
Except, like,
a better
Azrael
Venom.
kills people.
Right. Right.
So, like, maybe Azrael going around, like, kind of doing the same thing, wanting to rid Gotham of crime, but Azrael kills people, so Batman doesn't agree with him. It's like those two maybe going at it. And eventually I want to see a Robin. I want to see a good Robin portrayal. Because we haven't really gotten that.
Trying to think... unironically, I think it'd be kind of cool to see a Mr. Freeze, like a modern Mr. Freeze, because his story is tragic.
Oh, yeah.
I think he would be really cool to see in just a very own Batman movie.
I was supposed to say, am I wrong for saying this? But I don't really want to see the Joker all that much.
Joker's a little played out, and I kind of... After you said that, you're like, well, they could hint that he's in it in the
it's like,
after credits scene. I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I think it'd be cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't want that, if that makes sense.
I was supposed to say, a Court of Owls storyline would be super interesting.
There's a lot of different things, because this is going to be a nitty-gritty. I saw that Colin Firth was going to be Oswald Cobblepot the Penguin.
I love that casting.
He got really fat to do it. Fat to do it.
It's like,
cool.
For me, like, Batman, best villains. So, like...
Memorable.
So it's like, you can do so much with Batman.
I agree. I'm with that.
And there's so many characters I want to see on the big screen. Like, I've seen Joker, 4 times now? Like, 4 or 5 different movies with Jokers in them. I don't need a 6th.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
I would rather see the Mad Hatter, like, who's kind of like Joker. Like, he's a mix between Joker and the Riddler, in my opinion, except with magic.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I don't know.
And then I eventually want to see, like this is, like, years from now. But, like I said, I want to see Robin, but I also want to see Nightwing. Because, like, I think Nightwing would fit the tone of these movies.
Nightwing would make, because he's darker. And
or Red Hood.
Red Hood.
Nightwing or Red Hood, like one of those two set up.
Maybe they will.
Movie.
Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But Robert Pattinson, I hope this movie is good and this isn't just a trick.
I'm going to say this. I haven't seen it yet, but I can already tell you it's great.
I think it's going to be good, but you never know, man. You never know. That's why you go and watch these things.
You know, I'm also really looking forward to in this movie. Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis as Alfred might be one of my most underrated castings in the movie.
I was kind of like, when it first came out, I'm like, I don't know if he really fits all that much. Now the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, it
just works.
Yeah,
it just works. It just
it's
works.
Andy Serkis. If he can pull off Gollum, he can pull off anything.
Ranking the top Alfreds. Michael Caine's gotta be up. He's gotta be number 1.
My number 1 is the one from Gotham.
See, I'd never watched Gotham.
I actually love Alfred from Gotham. Like, he's a badass in that movie. Like, he's like because he's the one who teaches Bruce how to fight and all that kind of stuff. So, like, they give a lot to his character. I'll just say that.
That makes sense. Jeremy Irons low-keys, when I watched the Snyder Cut, he was so good as Alfred. Because he's got that kind of boring voice, but he's kind of the HQ. He's the guy in the chair.
Yeah. Alrighty, so you want to hop right into what are you watching?
I watched 2 episodes last night of the show.
Wait, Gabe, not yet. So, Gabe, what are you watching?
This is a common thing. I just jump right in.
Yeah, settle down, big boy.
Hey, I get excited sometimes. I watched 2 episodes last night of this show called Reacher on Amazon Prime.
Is that the one with John Krasinski?
No, you're thinking of Jack Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Reacher is... It's a book, and they had Tom Cruise play the character, but, like, one of his things is that he's this 6'5" dude that's just muscle bound.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise doesn't exactly fit that description because he's like 5'6".
He's a short dude.
He's a short king, but yeah, the guy that got playing him now. Did you ever watch Blue Mountain State?
I did not.
Oh, well, the guy that got playing him now is like actually 6'5" and full of muscle, and he was on the show. He was Thad Castle, so he's big dude. So that's what I've been watching. I haven't really been up to much.
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't either.
We've been busy.
I've been kind of busy as of late, so I only have one thing I'm bringing to what are you watching this week, because that's all I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been watching our MasterChef.
Dude, I love MasterChef. I'm glad you brought that up. MasterChef could be like one of my favorite comfort shows. Like, you turn it on for 40 minutes, you decompress.
Like,
you
for
feel
me,
better.
it's like everyone always like bring up Kitchen Nightmares is so good.
Chef.
I like MasterChef because, like, while you getting the Gordon Ramsay who yells at people, you're also getting Gordon Ramsay who praises people.
Yeah, how many times do you ever get to see that where he's like, this is a great dish?
Or he takes a bite and like he's like, so what were you thinking? And they're like, oh shit. And he's like, because that is amazing.
Let's go.
And they're like, it's like, my only gripe with this show is like all the commercial break stuff. It's like, you know, you got to like they're about to make the decision that cuts the commercial, and then you got to have like a 30-second like recap of what happens.
Yeah, they're like previously.
And it's like so it's like it goes to commercial break. You just hit 15. You just hit the skip button twice, and then you're hopping right back into it. But it's like, I just hate it.
I'm with you. I'm glad you brought up MasterChef because I wouldn't have even thought of that as something I would have said. But I do like MasterChef quite a bit.
Plus, it's like I just like looking at all like the delicious looking food.
You cannot watch that show hungry.
I was about to say I think I'm on season 2, episode 12. So I watched the whole first season. In most of the second season.
Badass. I've been watching a lot of YouTube lately.
I haven't. Which is kind of a first.
I ended up watching a 30-minute video on, like, is Phillip Rivers a Hall of Famer?
I've been watching a lot of baseball bits. Like
because you're missing it.
Foolish baseball. Like, I got really into the baseball mood because, you know, like the labor or the lockouts happening right now.
Your season's already getting
Screw you, Rob Manfred.
Yeah, Manfred sucks on the real.
But it's like, so I was watching a lot of Foolish Baseball, and like, he's a channel I recommend to anyone who likes baseball or wants to learn more about baseball.
Urinating Tree, if you want to watch football videos. 5-point vids are always pretty good.
Oh, I love 5-point.
I'm going to say this, and Barry McCockiner. Barry McCockiner videos, that was the one where they're like, why didn't Peyton Manning win more Super Bowls? And they always have like a final verdict. They're like, shitty defense.
Because he played against Tom Brady.
He had to play against Tom Brady. He wasn't clutch in the playoffs. That is a hot take. He didn't win one till like 2003. He was in the league for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Lamar is the modern.
And I suppose I did play, like, for the first time ever, I got Grand Theft Auto and played it. So has there been any video games you've been playing?
I just finished Assassin's Creed Origins, and I like that. That was set in Egypt with the Romans.
That's always a series I wanted to get into. I've only played one Assassin's Creed game. It was back on the PS3 days, and I played the one where he's in the 13 colonies, and he's...
Oh, Assassin's Creed 3?
Yeah, 3.
Okay. Yeah, it was good. I like that one. The essentials, there's a ton that really aren't essential. You need to play the first one, even if the graphics are kind of shitty. You need to play the second one. Third one doesn't do anything.
And then Elder Scrolls 4, I hopped into for the first time. Oblivion.
Was it good?
For me, it's so tough. Like, it's rough. It's like, I really want to like it, and it's good for a game made in 2004 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it's it's the Elder Scrolls, but it's Elder Scrolls 4, and it's old and outdated. Like, I would love this game if it, like, I like it. It's good, don't get me wrong. But it's so clunky compared to Skyrim.
The horses.
Yeah, it's so clunky, and the graphics, just, like, for its time, were amazing. But now it just
doesn't hold up.
So it's kind of tough to play, because of just how clunky and bad the graphics are. So, like, Bethesda, remake the game with the Skyrim engine.
You talking about the graphics. The graphics you were talking about, that I watched a video, and it was this guy who's playing Bloodborne. I never played Bloodborne. I don't really care. But the concept of it was called a D-Master, and they made it look like an old PlayStation 2 game. And, like, it was kind of neat, actually, because it looked cool.
Like, why would you want to do that?
Nostalgia purposes, I don't know, but it was neat. I will admit, it was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I finally decided to get, but yeah, back to GTA. I don't know why I thought that. I kind of glanced over that quick. Like, I never bought GTA. I've never played the campaign, so I was like $12 on PlayStation Plus yesterday. So I was like,
it's kind of fun.
You know what? For $12, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm kind of playing just through the campaign right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good campaign. Just robbed a bank, or robbed a jewelry store, which was pretty lit. And I mean, it's kind of like a game that you could just blow off some steam plane.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Like, I know last night I just sat at a street corner throwing landmines at the corner.
I always would throw sticky bombs on cars, and then I would wait, and I'd see it right in the rear view.
Like as bad as that sounds, like I was just throwing sticky bombs and proximity mines and grenade. I was just standing on top of a building, throwing those onto like the street, and like blowing cars up and stuff. And it got to a point to like where like there were so many cars piled up that when a car drove through, it would stop for like 3 seconds and it would blow up. So like for 15 minutes, I was just watching cars just drive through the intersection blowing up.
That's funny.
And then like I kept just like last night, I was like I said, I was just kind of just chilling there, just having fun playing it. So I just took the cheat codes out, and every time I got a star, I would just lower the wanted level, just so I can continue to watch cars blow up.
One of my favorites was that I would start at the northernmost spot, and then I'd try to make it down to the airport while the cops were chasing me. That was just something I'd always do.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm thinking tonight, just go rob some gas stations.
You're gonna be up late.
I was up late last night.
Blowing off steam, huh?
Well, I wasn't really blowing off steam. Yeah, I was. But I had to go to a floor meeting.
Oh, yeah, blow off steam time.
I had to go listen to a cop explain why peeing on floors is not a thing adults do.
I'm like, yeah.
Gotta love dorms.
I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like something they would do. But I could.
I hate my floor.
My floor is pretty cool.
I feel, Caleb. Caleb's pretty cool.
Caleb has his moments. He has all of his moments, good and bad. Like, yeah, yesterday he had to go to his physical for his job, and he was nervous. And when he gets nervous,
turn and cough.
I'm like, Caleb, it's okay to moan. I'm like, they're gonna check your prostate.
Okay, this is a great time to end the podcast. So yeah, if you haven't yet, make sure to follow us on Spotify. If you're one of our YouTube audience, subscribe, like the video, share the video with your friends and family. Like I said, we're trying to hit it big because I don't want to work for a living.
Me neither.
And yeah, if you're on Spotify, also share the Spotify with your friends. Help us grow a little bit, especially if you're enjoying the podcast. We're kind of hit that one point to where our audience is kind of just flatlined. Like we're at not flatlined, like because that means
plateauing.
We're plateaued. We're just same people every week, which is fine.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
Well, we make this for you.
But yeah,
we make it for you.
Just share us, help us grow a little bit. We love to see growth on the podcast. Like if you haven't yet, subscribe to or follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Have a Facebook page. Make sure to give that a like. We'll be posting pretty much all our updates on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, this is the Prestin Sexton podcast signing off.